These are the exact steps you need to take to get your first deal part 2. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Super excited about this video. This is part 2 of my how to get your first deal, like sales and marketing guide for surplus funds. You know, I made the first one and I had so much content to cover. I ended up just, it was like a 12-minute video. I was like, we can't just keep going on and on. Do you guys want a part 2? A couple of you guys said, hey, I want a part 2. So I figured, here we are, part 2, here it is. And I'm super excited about this one because I got a ton of awesome stuff to cover. But of course, before we get into that, we're doing that live stream very soon to give away those free mini courses. I want to make sure you get notified when we do that so you can potentially win that. So make sure you subscribe and of course hit that notification bell. And you know, again, you'll have the opportunity to win a free mini course on that live stream. And that'll be happening very soon. But let's go ahead and let's jump into today's topic, which again is how do you go out and get your first deal? And the first thing I want to talk about is this concept called respect, trust, and rapport, okay? And these are the 3 main principles you want to develop when you're building a relationship with someone, as far as a persuasive relationship, as a salesperson, as someone looking to work with someone. And again, that's respect, trust, and rapport, all right? So if we think about that for a second, I like to start with trust because, you know, trust is probably the simplest and easiest to understand right off the bat. Trust is really a function of time, okay? So for instance, you know, if you just meet some random person off the street, you know, trust level is going to be probably kind of low, okay? You just know, you barely met them, there's been no display of trust on either side, okay? Versus, you know, your significant other that maybe you've known for years, or a sibling, or whoever, someone you've known for years and have always been able to count on them, you're going to have a lot of trust for them, right? So we need to build enough trust with someone to where they're willing to, you know, basically give us their SSN and sign the contracts, not necessarily give it to us, but you know what I mean, sign the contracts with their SSN on it and send it into the state and trust us to recover their money for them. And for different people, it's at different levels, you know, how easy or difficult someone is to sell on something, okay? And so for some people, it's really easy to sell them on stuff. I'm probably one of those people. It's pretty easy to sell me on stuff. Like if it seems kind of logical to me, I'll buy it, right? I don't really need a ton of pushing and emotional and all that. But there's some people that it's like, literally they're going to clip coupons, they're going to try to get the best possible deal they can possibly get, and they're still not going to be happy with that. They're still going to negotiate, and they still might not even buy it, okay? So, you know, you got to kind of develop a relationship with someone, and as you're developing that, as you're talking to them on the phone, try to get a sense for where they're at with that. Are they someone that's going to be really difficult to sell, or are they someone that's pretty easy to work with that's, you know, going to be boom right away, send them the contracts and you're good to go? And the harder a person is to sell, the more trust you're going to have to build with them, because you're going to have to get them to believe you when you say, hey, I'm the best person to work with. And by the way, you better be the best person to work with, because they're going to ask you every possible question. If they have a high, you know, if they're difficult to sell, if they're one of those people that just really wants to make the perfect decision, they like to think about things for a long time, you better be the best person to work with them, okay? And either way, you need to be a good person that can actually work with them, but especially in that case. So with trust, it's a big function of time. And one of the analogies I like to use with this is something I actually learned in kind of the dating and pickup world. So there was a scientific study that they gave, I don't know, maybe it was like 5 or 6 years ago, where they surveyed, I think it was 1,000 women, okay, between the ages of 20 and 35 or somewhere around that range. And they asked them, they said, how long would you have to spend with a guy from the time you met that you would be willing to sleep with him, right? How much time would it take? And actually, as you guys are watching right now, before I give the actual answer, write your comments down below. Write how long you think it would take before and don't cheat, but write it down below, okay? I've heard people say, oh, you know, a week, right? A month, you know, 5 dates, right? But I'm talking an actual time spent together. Like you're not, you know, a week's worth of time, you're not spending the whole week with them, right? So how many hours or days or weeks are you spending with this person? Well, the average amount of time that they found out was 7 hours, okay? So hypothetically, on average, if you, for all the single guys out there, if you meet a woman and you hang out with her for 7 hours, on average, or according to the scientific study, she would be more, or at least willing to sleep with you, right? Now, obviously, every woman's different and all this, and don't get me in all that, it's not about this. But the point is that That's on average how much time it takes for them to have enough trust in you to be able to do that, right? Now with sales, it's similar, right? When you're trying to close a deal for surplus funds, it's very, very, very similar. How much time on average do you need to spend with someone? Well, if it's 7 hours, we use the same amount of time. If it's 7 hours, it's not with surplus funds, but let's say it is 7 hours. Well, you can do one call that's 7 hours long, or you can do, 7 1-hour calls, right? You can do 2 calls of 3.5 hours each. You can divide it up however you want to, right? But the key thing to remember is there's a certain amount of time you're going to have to hit talking to someone for them to feel confident in working with you. And it's probably going to be with surplus funds anywhere from an hour to 3 to 4 hours, somewhere in that range, depending on, again, how difficult they are to sell or how easy they are to sell. So that's trust. The next one I want to jump into is respect. And again, we've got respect, which is the first one, then trust, which we just covered, and then rapport, right? So respect is, you need to be looked at as an expert, right? Quite frankly, when I talked about in my last video how a lot of people, they jump into any type of sales, atmosphere, whether they're doing cold calls for surplus funds or for wholesaling or for some other real estate or anything. And they want to start talking about the most random stuff, right? Get to the point, be an expert. And you need to convey this on the phone. And the way you convey this on the phone is with your tonality, with your body language, right? So for instance, there's a great book out there I recommend all of you guys read. It's called The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. It's his sales book. It's an amazing book, right? And in that book, he actually talks about the different ways he does tonalities and body language and all of that. And one of the things is that when you're asking a question, to end with a higher pitch. So for instance, if I said, hey, how are you doing today? Right? Versus, hey, how are you doing today? Right? See, it's a lot more, it's the same question, the exact same words, but one is very aggressive, and it's like, whoa, like, chill out, dude. And the other one's like, oh, I'm good. How are you? You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with that, right? Like, you can say the same words and mean completely different things based on your tonality. Like, I could be joking around with my friends and be like, haha, F you, man, right? Like, we're joking around, we're calling each other's names, like, it is what it is. But at the same time, an hour later, I could be driving, someone like cuts me off and say, hey, F you, man, right? It's the same words, but it means completely different things, right? Based on your tonality. And that is super important in sales. So I highly, 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 highly recommend the book, Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. Now, another tonality that Jordan Belfort talks about in his book, Way of the Wolf, is called the Reasonable Man Tonality. So basically, this tonality is asking someone a question in a way where it would be very unreasonable for them on a social level for them to say no. So, for instance, let's say, hey, I'm doing service. Hey, is this Spencer? Oh yeah, this is Spencer. Who's this? Hey Spencer, this is Cameron. I'm just giving you a quick call because I actually have here that you're owed about $100,000 from the this so and so property. If you have like 60 seconds, I kind of explain to you exactly what that is, right? So I'm asking a question that's like, you have 60 seconds, I'll explain to you how you're owed $100,000, right? If you were to say I'm not interested in that, that seems a little bit weird, right? Like who's sold like. That on a social level just doesn't seem right? So he or she's almost forced to saying yes, or at the bare minimum saying, hey, I can't do it right now, but let's schedule a time, right? Which is still better than no, I'm not interested, because the truth is, again, it wouldn't be reasonable for them not to be interested. And the follow-up question to that too, before they even say anything, is, you got a second? You got 60 seconds, right? Again, reasonable. Like who doesn't have 60 seconds? Everybody's got 60 seconds, right? So, and there's a bunch of other tonalities. I'm not going to teach all of them. First of all, credit to Jordan Belfort. Guy is a wizard as far as cold calling, sales, and all that. Obviously, you guys know that. I'm sure you guys have seen the movie Wolf on Wall Street. Again, read that book, Way of the Wolf. Phenomenal sales book. Learn about tonality. Learn about body language. Even though you're on the phone, you can't see each other. Body language really conveys how important things are. Like for instance, I just closed my fist right there, and it really emphasized the point of how important body language is, right? If you look at presidential speeches, whenever they're trying to make a point, they point down at their podium. And they like point down at the podium because they're really trying to make a point. Every president, JFK, Barack Obama, Trump, and literally any president that knows how to speak, which is all of them, right? You can watch them do that. It's quite interesting. So body language is super important, and you want to set that stuff up and be very good at it so that you have that instant respect on the phone. Like this guy or this gal is an expert. This guy or this gal knows what they're doing, and they're here to actually help me. All right, and then finally we talk about rapport. So again, we've got respect, trust, and then rapport. And so what is rapport? Like, what does that mean? And, really rapport to me is really just being a regular human being, not being a sales robot, not being anything like that. And I think rapport is less about you actually building rapport and more about you not destroying rapport, right? So let me give you an example here. If let's say you're walking throughout the day, whatever, just doing your thing, and you get a call and you answer from a random number. And the guy picks up the phone and he sounds really clean cut. He's got great tonality, he's got great body language, he's conveying his message really, really well. Well, you're going to be a little bit more interested in that, and he's going to be having a lot of rapport with you over time because he's really connecting with you on that level. Versus the same guy saying the exact same words, but he's reading it off a script, right? Well, then there's no rapport because this is a sales guy. You said that there's nothing there. And in your head now, as the person that's being called, you're thinking, is this guy even a real human being? I mean, yes, he's obviously a real human being, but as far as on a communication level, he's just reading a piece of paper, right? This is not an actual conversation. So there's no rapport. So to me, rapport is more about just actually being a regular person and not reading directly off a script while you make a call, or at least if you are, making it sound like you're not reading off a script. That to me makes the most sense. That is what really rapport is for me. And again, rapport is a function of time and a function of just not destroying yourself on the call, not making some huge mistakes like having no tonality, having the wrong tonality, right? Having downward tens at the end of questions is awful. How are you doing today, right? Like we talked about earlier, that's not good. Okay, that does not sound like a good person that you want to talk to. So that's rapport, and hopefully that makes sense, guys. So on the call, when you're on these cold calls with people, you want to be looking to build respect, right? Which you come from being an expert, from having great tonality, from having great body language, right? You want to build trust, which is a matter of time, and doing the right thing over and over again for them, showing them on a micro level that they can trust you, so that on a macro level they can trust you as well. And then rapport, right? Just not messing things up, sound like a regular human being, sound like someone that, hey, if I bump to, at Starbucks or, anywhere, like I would enjoy talking to this guy or this girl, right? So hopefully that makes sense, guys. If you guys enjoyed this, I could probably make a part 3 on this. I've got even more content. But these videos end up going super long, so I just get talking and, here you are, we're at 12, 13 minutes. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like down below, leave a comment. Let me know what else you guys want me to cover as far as marketing and sales for actually getting deals. And, we'll be putting more videos together with that. But in the meantime, I appreciate you guys again. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll be doing that live stream for the mini course pretty soon, and I'll see you on the next video.